Brené Brown is one of the most successful authors and speakers in the world, with 5 books that have been #1 New York Times bestsellers and TED Talks watched by millions of people. She's a social scientist who researches human relationships, behaviour and emotions, and she spent much of her career looking at shame, why we feel it, how to avoid it, and why some people shame others. Her latest book is called Atlas of the Heart, and in it she decodes all the different feelings humans have in a bid to help us better understand and act on them. Brené Brown, how well or otherwise are most people able to label their emotions?
We're not very good at it, to be honest with you. We had some research early on where we surveyed right over 7,000 people and asked them to make a list in writing of every emotion they could label while they're feeling it. And the average number was 3. So happy, sad, and mad. We just don't have a vocabulary that is as expansive as our human experience.
And so what is the effect of that?
If all you have are 3 buckets, that means when you're feeling grief or disappointment or awe or wonder or, positive or negative, we have to shove them into whatever buckets we have. And what we know from the data is that the ability to accurately name an emotion helps us move through it, helps us heal, helps us replicate it for the positive emotions. And this is the thing that really blows my mind. We know this from neuroscience. Language does not just communicate emotion, it shapes it.
Is there any one emotion that's more toxic or damaging than others?
Well, I would tell you one thing to be very wary of is contempt. Like if you and I are in an argument about something and you're really angry with me, that's okay. We're still connected. We disagree, we're angry. But contempt is you have been dismissed. And it's really interesting because if you look at the research from the Gottmans, who've studied relationships for 40 years, they have the ability to predict divorce through observations of couples arguing over 90% accuracy. And one of the biggest tells is contempt. It is really like, I'm not just angry, I'm done.
You've spent a lot of your career researching shame, and you've said that it's epidemic in our culture. Why is that?
Shame and guilt, 2 very different things. So guilt is, I did something bad, and shame is, I am bad. And so I think in our culture today, we just see the vitriol. We see people just humiliating, shaming each other, name calling, belittling, putting down. And I really think it's because 2 things. One, it's a really powerful way to discharge anger and pain and discomfort. So I think 1, because it feels good. And number 2, we do not know how to hold people accountable. And we berate ourselves. I mean, very few of us talk to ourselves in the face of a disappointment or a failure. Very few of us talk to ourselves the same way we would talk to someone we love and respect.
Why is that?
We've bought into this idea that we can shame ourselves and each other into changing. And there's literally not a scrap of evidence that says that's true. What we know from studies is that shame does nothing to move people in either direction. Empathy, understanding, listening, what is the fear, what is the concern? That is actually the only thing that's effective. And so you can't shame or belittle people into changing.
So if you've done something in your life that's caused you to feel shame, what is the antidote to that?
I think, what's interesting is guilt gets a really bad rap, but guilt is a very socially adaptive emotion. Guilt is cognitive dissonance. Guilt says, I've done something or failed to do something that is aligned with my values. And it feels awful. There's a real psychological discomfort. I need to make amends, make a change, hold myself accountable. I need to fix it. Shame doesn't say I did a bad thing. Shame says you are a bad person. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's no intervention point there. I'm just a bad person. As a social species, shame is death. Shame is the fear of being unworthy of love, connection, and belonging. And in the absence of love and connection and belonging as human beings, there's always suffering. So we have to say to ourselves, look, I'm not a bad person, but I did a bad thing. And I've got to fix that thing and make amends. So when you see people making amends, being accountable, it's not because it's driven by shame. It's because it's driven by guilt and a combination of guilt and empathy.
COVID has been a very challenging time for a lot of people, and uncertainty has become a major feature of life. Why do human beings find uncertainty so difficult?
I mean, in a really neurobiological, easy answer, it's a threat to survival for us. An uncertain environment poses a huge threat. You know, in March of 2020, I posted something across my social media that said, we are collectively in an involuntary experiment on vulnerability and uncertainty. And you will see two things: the very best of people and the very worst of people. The really heinous stuff that we see, the really terrible behavior, you know, the people in, you know, I'm in Texas throwing water bottles at physicians who are testifying at school board meetings about the importance of masks. I mean, that kind of really behavior that we have not seen publicly, that is actually a very default human response to fear and uncertainty. It is fight, flight, parasympathetically, maybe freeze. But during times of great uncertainty, we have to intentionally choose courage. It is not the default.
It was lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much, Brené.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.